So whilst I was dealing with trying to figure out what on earth was going on with myself, you would see people, and like one example was a guy super like old who reminded my grandfather in his 80s, and no exaggeration, and I think it was actually the I get him slightly confused as to which time in hospital this was. I think this was the final time, and he was at a point when I first came across this guy where you would think that he should be in an old age home, like he can't eat him for himself, he can't speak. He's literally would be I remember seeing him in his room because it was across from where I was, sat on his sat at the end of his bed, because one of the people there, the nurses had said, oh, we're going to shower you or something. And then I remember looking like 2 hours later, the guy's still there because no one's coming actually, you know what I mean? That was the level this person was at, right? Complete, vegetable would be probably the non-political way of saying it. But like, there was nothing. There was like, and if you were to look at that person, you would think that's it. Like, that's just, they're not going to get better. They're going to deteriorate from there. You think maybe they've got dementia, Parkinson's, who knows? That was what you think. And so I just was looking at how they were treating this fellow, and back to that not having this talking therapy piece, which I think might just be a theme in what we're doing here, ironically enough. I was like, I wonder if I just sit with this guy and just see what happens. And no word of a lie, over maybe 4 or 5 weeks, you wouldn't believe the difference in this guy. It got to a point where he was so cheeky to the women's staff, they had to be like removed type thing. And like, you're like, how can this, how
from here to there?
It's impossible. It's not possible that someone can. And the same happened with this really young, I think she was 18, 19-year-old, who was like a mouse, a real field mouse, wouldn't say anything, and was kind of had this like ghostly look and was constantly frightened all the time, and walking the corridors and kind of like just lost is the truth. Completely lost. So I did the same thing. I was like, all right, let's just sit with this person like at lunch and just not even say anything, and day by day and week by week, and they all of a sudden, like, this person's like a different human being, and you start to go, hold on a minute, like, that's just 2 examples. There are plenty more. And I'm not just saying it was me, right? There were other things going on, but like, I was a significant proponent of what went on, and you could ask me with that. And it's not like I did anything special, right? All I was doing was just trying to figure out like, what's going on here. And it turned out the young lady, she was actually studying to be a mental health nurse, believe it or not. And then got caught up in the system. And I just wish the system would appreciate the fact that there needs to be more talking therapy whilst you're in there. And then when you are released from there, I don't know why they haven't figured this out. The things that you have seen from a traumatic point of view needs to be dealt with. And also, coming from a place where often people are there for months, if not years, in these positions, sometimes right? And you have no independence in there, to a position of now, okay, we think you well, bye-bye. I know
exactly. There's no kind of real follow-up. You go from there to there. And that's something which I've grappled with as well as a doctor on the other side of that. I'm like, where's the intermediate step? You're getting people often institutionalizing them with medication and nursing care, etc., psychiatric assessments in a psychiatric hospital or psychiatric unit. And then they're being discharged, section being removed, being discharged, so to speak, into a society with community psychiatry follow-up. We call that liaison psychiatry. We've got the follow-up there. But they now need to readjust into life, because they've just been in an institution where you get 3 meals a day. Often you get injections, haloperidol, all these kind of things, tranquilizers, and then you're going into a society. A lot of people, it's hard to cope. Really, it really is hard to cope with that, because you spend a significant portion of your life, maybe sometimes 2 years, 18 months. A lot of guys are in there for. And then you're going to go out. In 2 years, lots of change. In 2 years, I remember watching a video of a guy who was in prison for a few years, but he went in during late 90s, early 2000s, where internet just bloomed. And he came out of prison and he didn't know how to open a taxi door. Like, he just, because, you know, things are just so advanced within the few years that he was in there. It's the same if you're a psychiatric inpatient. You know, there's no step down care. We have it in medicine, but not in psychiatry, and that is really the shame here.